All right, good afternoon to all of you. Good morning, good evening, wherever part of the world you are from. So, once again, I am John Michael Suelo and welcome to Pageant Trend. I'll be your host and correspondent for this live interview with Miss Earth Alaska USA Kimberly Keen. And I am very much excited to introduce her. Her credentials would really speak a lot about her. And of course, if you have any questions for our Miss Earth Alaska USA later, please feel free to drop it in the comments section and we will ask those questions to our special guest. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's an honor and privilege to introduce her to all of you. She's a 27-year-old family law lawyer. Wow. She's a freelance journalist, model, humanitarian, and environmental activist. And ladies and gentlemen, she is the reigning Miss Alaska Earth USA 2021 and is set to compete in Miss Earth USA. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a big round of applause for Kimberly Key. Hi, Kimberly.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yes, how are you doing? Would you like to greet our viewers and, of course, your supporters for this evening? I think it's evening in USA, right?
That's right. So I'm on Pacific time and it's 10 o'clock at night here.
Yeah. Would you like to greet your fans and supporters who are watching us tonight?
Yes, hello everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm really excited to be here. If you've been following me, you know I love talking about my advocacy and Miss Earth USA. So your support means so much to me. It's really getting me through these last few weeks. So thank you so much for joining. And I hope you ask some questions.
Yes, thank you so much, Kimberly, for joining us. All right, so wait, let me just correct the screen. Sorry for
Okay.
that. All right. Kimberly, so you are a family lawyer, and what we're excited to know is that, um, how do you think you being a family lawyer will be at your advantage joining Miss Earth competition?
Yeah, so the reason I really became a lawyer was to help the earth and to help others. When I was in law school, I was actively involved in helping victims of domestic violence. I still am every day at my work. And I also was a comment editor on the San Diego Journal of Climate and Energy Law. So I was actively involved in trying to spread awareness about the various environmental policies and laws throughout the United States. So my experience in that regard, of course, helps me, and that's really what speaks to my character. What fuels my fire, so to speak, is these good causes. And that's exactly why I joined Miss Earth USA, because it's so focused and very much displays that focus on their initiatives and the environmentalism aspect of it. So I think that my experience in this regard, of course, will be a great asset. And I would say that it's not just about my skill set, it's also about how it speaks to my character, and that I really pride myself in my conviction, in that when I say I want to do something and I care about something, I do it, and I do it to the best of my ability. And that's definitely what I plan on bringing to the competition in January.
Wow. Well, I think all of us here would agree with what you just said, and with your credentials, I'm sure you will really, go a long way with your Miss Earth journey. Let's talk about you. So you are growing up. You said that during your childhood, of course, you developed your love for nature and of course the outdoors. And of course, your father is actually an avid hunter and wildlife conservationist, right? Would you like
That's
to
right.
tell us more about this?
Yeah, so I grew up in sunny San Diego, California. That's where I currently live now. I was a huge nature lover. I still am. I was fortunate enough in that my dad is a hunter, and so he's also very much an outdoorsman. So growing up, I was able to go camping and fishing with him and really enjoy the outdoors. And that love has taken me through my life. I'm still actively involved in hiking. I still go camping on my free time. And so that love that my father instilled in me growing up has, really aided me in my life, not just in my mental health and my emotional well-being, but I think that special relationship with nature is really important for all of us. Sometimes we get lost in sort of the day to day, and most of us, if we're working in the corporate world, we don't see much of the outdoors. But I found that it's been such an enriching part of my life. And so, especially with joining Miss Earth USA and other endeavors that I have and I'm doing in my life, such as my initiative, Oceana Project, I want to bring that love back to nature and give that respect back to Mother Earth and what she deserves.
And I believe your love for all of this really started when you were just a child. And I believe at 11 you were able to have you take a stray cat. Is that right? Would you like to tell us more about it? And I think that's a fun fact about you is that ever since that you were a child, you are already advocating for these causes.
Yeah, and I'm so happy you brought that up because any opportunity I have to speak about my cats, I love. But yeah, so when I was 11, there were a lot of stray cats around the neighborhood, as I'm sure most of the viewers can relate to. Stray animals are everywhere. But I loved animals so much. I remember I used to voluntarily go around to each house in my neighborhood and asked to walk everybody's dogs for free. And I did that all throughout my childhood, every single day, because I just wanted to be around dogs. And I didn't grow up with any dogs or cats. And so I snatched at the opportunity the first time I saw a stray pack of cats in my neighborhood. And one of them, a black cat who we named Salem, was very friendly. And I remember we were always coming back, and he would still be there. We'd go on vacations, and he'd still be there wanting to come in. And so eventually I convinced my parents to adopt him. And I haven't stopped. Today I have two rescue cats. So they weren't strays when I adopted them, but they were when the adoption agency got them. And so I haven't given up on my love for rescue animals.
That's so cute, and I'm sure there are a lot of cat lovers who are watching us this tonight, this morning, this afternoon, wherever you are. Thank you for sharing that, and I believe you are also a political science graduate of UCLA,
Yes.
and eventually you took up your Juris Doctor degree and you passed your bar examination in California.
Yes.
So, tell me how difficult is it when you were taking your journey, and what were the values or the um, what were your learnings during those times that you think you can use, of course, in your journey as Miss Earth, Alaska, USA?
I think the reason I'm able to compete on such a high level at Miss Earth USA, especially considering that I'm very new to pageantry, this is only my second ever pageant in my life. I think the skills that I learned through going through UCLA, which is a very difficult school, and going through law school, which is difficult at any level in any school, those skills, those coping mechanisms, and those lessons I learned really helped me today in my everyday life, but especially with preparing for Miss Earth USA, which is a rigorous competition, as you know. So when I was studying, and I would often find myself getting very frustrated, and of course, there's bumps along the road. You're never going to get perfect scores on everything, and there's always setbacks. But I think what it really taught me was being able to kind of humble myself a bit and learn that, just because you can get into law school, I think a lot of people think that when they get into law school, they think they're the smartest person in the world. And now there's just smooth sailing from here on out, right? Because I passed this and I was able to get into school. There's no way this is going to be difficult for me. Well, that's what I thought too. And I was sorely mistaken. It was really difficult. It was the most difficult thing of my life, academically speaking. But I think that definitely did help me in that it was able to, bring me back down to reality and, you know, teach me that it really takes hard work. even when you think that you've gotten to a level where it doesn't take hard work anymore, anything that's worthwhile in life is going to take hard work. And especially, more importantly, it's going to take persistence. And that's a habit that I've learned throughout academia is sticking to your routine every day, even if you feel tired, even if you feel discouraged. And it really does get me through. And it's helped me through pageant prep as well when I feel frustrated at times.
Well, thank you so much, Kimberly, for sharing those experiences that you had in law school. And it's truly inspiring. And aside from that, I believe when you were in law school, you have already served as the executive board of the Journal of Climate and Energy Law as comment editor, highlighting changing laws and policies around climate change and energy conservation. And what I love about you is because even before you joined really Miss Earth, you have already been doing a lot of things for the environment. And I think um, as you take this journey, you are just going to amplify what you have already started. And that's really very admirable. Um, Tell
Thank you.
us more about you being the founder of Oceana Project. I think this is something that you are most passionate about right now. So tell us more about Oceana Project.
I would love to. So I founded Oceana Project this past October when there was a massive oil spill off of Huntington Beach, which is just about an hour north of where I live now. And as I've said previously to you, I'm a native San Diegan. And so growing up by the coastline, I'm sure many of your viewers will understand if they also grew up near the beach, or if not, I mean, most of us love the beaches and the coastlines. But growing up, the beach was a huge part of my life. It still is. And Californians, we really do respect nature, and as evidenced in a lot of our environmentalism and how environmentalism is kind of a societal norm here. So I really had this reciprocal respect for the beach and the oceans around me. And so when I heard about this oil spill, I immediately got triggered and I thought, what can I do to help and what can I do to volunteer? Well, unfortunately, at the time, and actually still is the case, the Department of Fish and Wildlife, which is the governmental agency that helps with these cleanups, they weren't allowing new volunteers to help out with the cleanup. They just wanted people who had already been trained. I hadn't already been trained. So I thought, well, this is still something that very much concerns me. And there wasn't a whole lot of detail in the news. I was hearing about sort of minor updates, but I wasn't hearing a whole lot about what people were doing to help and any kind of big updates on the spill. So that's when I founded Oceana Project because I wanted to get out and help some way that was a little bit more than just waiting for a volunteer application to open up. So since then, I've done a couple of things with my initiative. I started out with a virtual event where I encouraged others, and I participated as well, where I went to my local beach in Encinitas and I reported the effects of the oil spill. So there was a lot of things like tar balls washed up on the shore. I even saw a seagull, a dead seagull with tar in its feathers. So it was a very humbling experience to realize, this is a real situation. And it just encouraged me to do more. So I reported that to the Surfrider Foundation, who had a hotline going on. I believe they still do. And then I also uh, participated in and ran a 5K here in San Diego. I partnered with One Digital World, and half the proceeds went to One Digital World, which helps refugee education. And then the other half I donated to the Pacific Marine Mammal Center, which is in Laguna Beach. And they're a great organization. They're at the forefront of helping wildlife restoration from the oil spill. So that was an awesome success. We also were able to use the Garbo grabbers and pick up a lot of trash. People really enjoyed that. So I was really happy to hold that event. And I was also able to attend the Surfrider Foundation's town hall meeting where I was learning more about what was being done. And the Surfrider Foundation is very much involved in trying to change legislation around offshore oil drilling, which is a huge contributor to these spills. And then in the future, of course, I plan to keep doing more with this. But in the very near future, in about 2 weeks, I'm planning to also hold a little live event with my sister queen, Miss Oklahoma Earth Emma Loney, because her Think Global Act Local project is actually uh, law related. She's a law student as well. So we're planning to hold a joint event there and bring some more awareness about the law and policy around oil spills and offshore oil drilling.
Wow, that was, that was amazing. And I believe our viewers right now can agree that you are very spontaneous. You really know what you're doing. You love what you're doing, and we're excited on your journey in, pursuing and pushing forward with this advocacy. Kimberly, there's a question that I believe I received from some of our viewers tonight. Is that you are a family lawyer, and there's different specializations, being a lawyer. What made you choose that direction? Why did you choose to become a family lawyer or divorce lawyer?
Yeah. So that was actually something that I never planned on being. So I actually, I majored in political science at UCLA, and I thought, and also my concentration was international relations. And so I thought I was always going to be an international lawyer, an international human rights lawyer. And I did take a lot of courses in law school relating to that. And then I also kind of, it was on purpose though, but I really shifted around the different areas of law that I was interning and working at. So I had a lot of experience in law school in criminal law, in immigration, like I said, in human rights. I even I clerked at a firm that did insurance defense at one point. So all kinds of different areas of the law, and I enjoyed each and every one of them. But what I realized was what the common thread was there was the most rewarding thing for me was when I was able to help families. And so I thought, what better way to do that than actually just pursue family law. And as you said, there's a lot of different specializations in the law, but there's a lot of different areas in family law. It's a huge, wide open field. We have the appellate process. Most of it is at the trial court level, though. There's issues of child custody, there's issues of domestic violence, there's issues of divorce and property division. I mean, the list goes on and on. So it's a very wide ranging field. And so I feel very satisfied because it's not just legally complex and it's challenging for me and intellectually challenging for me every day, but I definitely feel like I am helping families. And that's ultimately, as you can imagine, during the divorce process and other family legal issues, it's a very contentious time, and people are not in the best moods, and some of them are going through the worst times in their lives. And so I really pride myself in being able to not just help them legally with their issues, but also help them personally. Because if you're already going through a very hard time in your life, the least I can do is make that better for you and make you feel a little bit more relieved that it could go better than what you expect. So really the humanitarian element of family law is what drew me to it more than anything.
Thank you so much, Kimberly, for sharing those things, and it's really admirable of you. Kimberly, I think we have international audience right now, and not for different parts of the world. Some do not actually recognize divorce; they do not have it, and this is a very political question. But what are your thoughts about it? Why do you think having divorce in a country is significant based on your work, with your experience? Can you share about
Right. Yeah,
it?
so I just want to say first and foremost that I definitely respect certain countries' decisions not to have divorce. I'm not sure if it's in the Philippines, but correct me if I'm wrong. I believe there's some laws against divorce in the Philippines.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of countries where the religion is paramount in their culture, and so divorce is just not an option. And so I do respect that because I understand, of course, coming from an international law background, I would be naive to say that everywhere in the world should be like the US, right, or the West. However, as what I have seen in my work is that even though divorce is, like I've said, very contentious and it can be very stressful, it is sometimes the better option than staying married. And so, I would never encourage someone to stay in a marriage who is experiencing issues of things like domestic violence or abuse, but even just small things. I mean, sometimes, women, I often find in my work that women find themselves in marriages and they haven't really set up their career or their personal lives at all. And so they're very dependent on their husband. And then when they find that they can't be in this marriage anymore and they're not happy and they want to divorce, all of these issues come up because even though, he can support her for a while, she still has to find work. She still has to figure out how to live on her own, how to recalibrate her identity on her own, how to raise her kids half the time on her own. So, it's a very difficult thing to go through, but a lot of times people do find that it's better than staying in a very happy or at worst an abusive marriage. So, I wouldn't say that I advocate for divorce. That's a weird way of putting it because I want to see everybody happily married and together. But I do think that sometimes it is necessary. And when it is, thankfully, I find that most of the divorce laws here in the US, especially where I am in California, are quite fair on both parties. So that's the best I can hope for in an imperfect process.
Thank you so much, Kim, for clarifying and of course taking a stand on this issue. And I really appreciate how you, of course, respect the differences in different countries. And yes, thank you so much, Kim. And another question is, being a family or divorce lawyer, what was that most memorable experience that you had? Do you have that client in mind, like that you, I mean, made you cry, made you feel happy? Is
Yes.
that yeah, a particular moment that you can share with us?
Yeah, I would say that every day there's a mix of emotions. It's frustration with the client, it's frustration with the opposing party. There's a lot of emotions, but the biggest one that stands out to me, I just graduated law school. I wasn't quite a lawyer yet. So I was volunteering at here we have in San Diego and actually all over California, we have what's called the Family Law Facilitator's Office. And it's just basically a family law office at your local courthouse where there's attorneys that work for the court and they help self represented litigants out with their paperwork. So you can't give legal advice or anything like that. You're not their attorney, but you help them out and saying, they come to you and say, I want to file for, modifying my child custody order. And then you will help them, give them the paperwork and kind of review it for them. So it's a really nice way to learn about family law. And I loved my time working there. But anyway, while I was there, I was on the domestic violence restraining order duty that day with the supervising attorney. And there was a girl who came in, I think she was maybe 19 years old. And it was the worst case that I had seen. Her arm was in a sling. She had two black eyes. She had a busted lip. She was just I mean, it looked like something out of a movie, the way she looked. And she was straight out of the hospital. And what happened was her ex-boyfriend had stalked her, found her, and had run her over with his car. And so the first place she went after getting out of the hospital was to the courthouse to file a restraining order against him after pressing charges at the police station. So helping her out, I remember her mom was there with her and she was so good natured and maybe she was still in shock, but she was kind of joking around with me and she was in a very good mood. And it just hit really close to home because, I do work with domestic violence organizations and I have for a while. But it's not often that I see, something like that bad to someone because a lot of times it's after the fact, that they've been abused and they're coming in later for, to file things legally. But she came in right after she was abused and almost killed. So that was a big moment for me and it solidified why I do what I do. Not every day or not every I would say every day I do work with domestic violence restraining orders, but not every day do you see them that intense. And so it did solidify in me the reason why I do this and the reason why I help these people is because I am really making a difference in their lives. And, you can't undo the damage and the abuse that's been done, unfortunately, but you can help them, at least in the legal field, you can help them get their justice and their repercussions for that.
Wow. Thank you so much, Kim. And I think a lot of probably our viewers can agree or some extent probably have heard stories like that as well. And this is the reality of life. And thank you for doing all of these things. And I think when you were in law school, You also won Pro Bono Service Recognition Award for contributing over 100 hours in free legal work. So thank you for doing those things in your community. And I think we had a very serious topic, serious questions for the past few minutes. I would like to once again ask our audience right there. If you would like to ask some questions for Kimberly, feel free to comment, and we would love to entertain those questions. But before anything else, let's go to fun questions, basic questions, just about getting to know more about you. Kimberly, what's the best way to start your day? You start your day.
The best way to start your day, I would say, is by exercise, even if it's something light like yoga. I don't follow this every day, unfortunately, but I find that when I do start my day, honestly, first thing before even washing my face or brushing my teeth or anything, I just go out for a run. Actually, during COVID, that was what I did all the time because the gyms were closed. Well, it's still pandemic now, but when it was, everything was closed down, that's what I would do every morning before I went to work. And I found that it had such an amazing effect for the rest of the day. My head was clear, my body felt good. So I would say any kind of form of movement, get your body moving, get your blood flowing. And I think you will feel good the rest of the day. As much as it's terrible getting up for it, I promise it'll be worth it.
Yes, thank you so much. And another question, what would be your ideal way to spend the weekend? So how do you generally spend your weekend since you are a lawyer and I'm sure you're busy for the entire week? How do you spend it?
Yeah, unfortunately now I'm working all through the weekends with everything that I'm preparing. I mean, I still love it, but the ways that I really love to spend my weekends are kind of lazy. I like to get up late. I like to have a big brunch. I love breakfast food, so go out for brunch and then, go to a farmer's market or something like that. Just be outdoors and shop around and browse. And I also love being able to see the sunset. So if I'm in a, interesting location like the beach, or if I'm just sitting in my backyard, that's always a great way to spend the night. And then of course being with my friends and loved ones and being able to, I'm a big food person, so happiness for me revolves around food. So having a great brunch, a great lunch, and a great dinner and dessert and drinks, that's always makes me so happy.
Right, and of course, we're just a few days from now, we will be spending the holidays. So, how do you usually spend your holidays? I think that the question I would like to ask is, what would be your Christmas wish for all of us?
Oh, my Christmas wish is that we all stay healthy. I know that the new variant is coming around with COVID, and I was fortunate enough not to get the virus, but I know so many people who did and who struggled with it and who lost loved ones because of it. So I really hope that everybody stays healthy this Christmas season and, is lucky enough to spend it with their family and their loved ones.
All right. I think we have a question from Napoleon Osbo Federer. All right, let me start with this first question. The question is, Miss Alaska Earth, Attorney Kimberly Key, what will you do if you feel that you have associated yourself with someone who is firm in fighting for what is wrong, the person who cannot stand for what is right? So
That's a
what will you do?
I would try at first, of course, to ask them about why they believe what they do and try to come to a human understanding. I understand that not everybody will believe in the same things that I do, even if I believe it's wrong. Sometimes it is just cultural differences or just differences of opinion. And I'm not scared to be friends with or be associated with people who have viewpoints that are different from mine, but if I did believe that what they believed and what they were doing was actually morally wrong, of course, I would try initially to have a talk with them and try to understand their viewpoint, maybe try to sway them in another direction. But if that's not possible, then I think sometimes it's okay to go your separate ways. But I would never want to bash anybody for what they believe in. I think that, there are other repercussions if somebody is really acting in the wrong. We have a lot of ways that karma will ultimately take care of that for them. So I don't condone, just, reprimanding someone because you think what they're doing is wrong. But I definitely do think that it's okay if you feel like somebody you're associated with, you can't jive with what they're believing in anymore. It's okay to, go your separate ways. Sometimes it is just a difference in growth, and that's kind of what life is, kind of figuring out where you fit in and who you fit in with.
And another question from Napoleon. These are actually interesting questions, and I love it. A Miss Alaska Earth attorney. Wait, let me flash it on the screen. All right. So Miss Alaska Earth attorney Kimberly Keen, who between a criminal who can pay beyond your charge, and a victim who cannot afford even a quarter of it, are you most likely going to help? Wow, this is very interesting. Of course, you can turn both down, but in the process, you are effectively depriving yourself of what could be a big time win. And we know that might also result into you losing potential clients as well. So, what would you choose? Someone who can pay you beyond your lawyer charge, or someone who cannot pay you, at all? Yeah, a victim who cannot afford your service.
That's a good question, and that is a huge point of contention that lawyers face every day. So, because I work for a firm, I don't have the authority to accept or turn down clients. My boss does. But that's always a point of contention. It's if somebody, there are a lot of people, especially in family law, who want to hire us, but the price is too high, and that's just a reality. I do find comfort though in the fact that there are so many amazing pro bono programs for victims, and we often refer them to those programs. We never just turn somebody down just because. We always make sure that, if they can't afford us, then we make sure to refer them to these other amazing programs that will help them. And then with the question about, having somebody who's a criminal and afford it, well, that's just kind of being an attorney, right? Is you take on clients that perhaps you don't agree with their actions. I mean, this happens all the time in family law. I'm not a criminal defense lawyer, so we don't defend criminals per se on their criminal charges, but we often take on clients that maybe we don't agree with their position necessarily, or we don't necessarily like how they're going about certain things in their life. But it's not, being a lawyer, that's not really what it's about. It's not about agreeing with everything that your client does or says or how they handle their life. It's about providing them with the right form of justice and providing them with the right counsel for what they're looking for. Of course, there are, just to be clear, there are professional rules of responsibility where, as attorneys, we can't take on somebody who, or we don't have to take on someone as a client who we think we absolutely cannot, represent them. And nor should you. I mean, if you have someone that comes to you as a potential client and you think what they're doing is so wrong and you can't stand to talk to them, then you shouldn't take them on. And you don't have to necessarily. That's what the rules say. But I applaud him for his question because it is a difficult point of contention as an attorney. But as I've said before, there are tons of programs we do refer victims to if they can't afford our rates. And with somebody that we don't necessarily defend people, but representing in court that, has done things that we don't necessarily agree with, well, that's kind of just the nature of being a lawyer. Of course, I find the good in every client. I don't think that we take on any clients where I actually believe that they're a bad person and I don't want to help them. A lot of times it is just circumstances and things don't go very smoothly because it's a very contentious time for them.
All right. Wow. Kim, another question from Irving Johnson Varquez Sanchez. Hello, Kimberly. In relation to domestic violence, which have relatively increased, especially in this time of lockdown or the pandemic, how would you encourage the son or daughter of the abused to speak up and take a stand to put a stop on this kind of abuse? Thank you.
You know, it's so difficult for so many victims to speak up, and it's not just because they don't have the resources. I mean, I would say there's so many amazing, even domestic violence hotlines around the world that we have. We have women's shelters all around the world and all these different resources for them, but it's just simply hard. I mean, if you're being regularly abused, it's hard to even think about going against your abuser. But I would say that if you are a victim and you do believe, you're coming to the realization that you don't want to be treated like this and you know that it's wrong, I would encourage them to seek out those different organizations and those different hotlines and women's shelters because they will help you and they won't, make your name public so you can do it very much under the radar and try to be safe about it as well because you want to be careful that you're not alerting your abuser to what you're doing because sometimes that can make them more angry. But I would say definitely do your research, make sure that you get in contact with one of those organizations or those hotlines that can help you
All right, and then another. All right, we have a wide range of questions right here.
out.
There's another question. Wait. Okay. Let me see the questions here. Okay, so there's a question from Lionel Valenciano. Do you think that cancel culture entirely destroys liberalism? What's your stand on cancel culture? Okay.
I don't agree with cancel culture, and I'm just going to say that point blank. I do agree with a lot of sentiments that cancel culture embodies. So, there are people who are quote unquote canceled, and I think that what they did was wrong. But I don't necessarily believe that doxing them from society and ruining, sometimes firing them from their jobs and ruining their reputation, those things are really detrimental to people's lives. And so I would encourage people to have a conversation. And that's ultimately what liberalism is about speaking to your fellow man, relating to them and man or woman, relating to them and understanding that you will have different actions that you take in life and not everybody will agree. And of course, there should be some repercussions for somebody doing something wrong or saying something that's offensive, but not necessarily canceling them and putting them in the dark for the rest of their life. I don't think that that's necessarily productive. So I would encourage just more communication between each other and in order to figure our differences out.
All right, another question from still, I believe from Napoleon. Miss Alaska Earth, Attorney Kim, if someone that you care about did something that is terribly wrong, how will you correct him or her if simply telling him or her is clearly not
If telling the
enough?
person, speaking with the person isn't enough, then I don't know if it's always my place to get involved. So if somebody's doing something wrong and I've spoken to them and they're not listening, then I think that, then they'll have to deal with some other, some karma or whatever they are doing that is wrong. I don't think that it's necessarily my place to take action against them. Of course, unless it's maybe in the legal field or something like that. But I highly encourage debate and speaking and peaceful methods of resolving conflict before anything else.
Another question from still Napoleon. Attorney Kim, you have shared that you will have your own kids someday, and you are aware that part of being a very great parent is choosing the right partner. So maybe have from you a detailed but concise description of the one that for you is. Who is the one?
Let's see how detailed and concise I can get. I think the perfect person and the partner for me is somebody who is loyal, who is kind, who has ambitions, and isn't afraid to be themselves. I know that's something that people struggle with a lot these days. We're always thinking about how others can accept us, especially on social media, but I think just the very simple values of being a kind person and, being loyal and honest and just those good qualities are, I think, what I would be looking for in terms of starting a family.
On the contrary, another question is that Attorney Kim, what for you is generally a turn off, but for whatever reason that is just fine with you? What's your general turn off?
A turn off would be in anybody, I think, being unkind. So I think anytime anybody is saying things that are unnecessary and attacking somebody's looks or character and things like that, I generally don't like those kinds of comments because I don't find them productive. But I try not to look for the bad qualities in people. I'm really trying to look for the positive attributes that people have because I do believe everybody has them.
Okay, thank you so much, Attorney Kim. All right, so I think let's talk about now. You can answer various questions, and we really admire you for that. Tell us now, how do you prepare for the Miss Earth USA? What were your preparations? Have you been training with your walk, with your advocacy? What do you do to prepare for the competition?
Yeah, I'm doing everything to train. So, starting off, I was really focused on my platform, Oceana Project. That was something that actually kind of by happenstance formed while I was Miss Alaska Earth. It wasn't something that I planned on doing, but because of that oil spill, that was what I ended up pursuing. And so I've been really busy with that. That was sort of the beginning stages. And now I'm hyper laser focused on, of course, my communication skills and, of course, my walk, my presentation. I mean, it's everything. So it's been a kind of a, full-time job in addition to my already full-time job, but I absolutely love it. I love that aspect that it is challenging. It isn't something that comes natural to me. So it's I like that challenge and it's been very busy but very fun so far.
What do you think, Attorney Kim, would you like to improve on that you think is necessary for you to win the crown? What is yet to be done?
I think I could personally, I think I can always improve on everything that I'm doing. I wouldn't say I'm a perfectionist, but I'm definitely someone that likes to do my best and keep improving. So I would say every skill set, but particularly now, I would say I need to work on my walk, possibly being on stage, because that, like I said, that's something that is not natural to me and it's new. I'm brand new to pageantry. And I think that's the biggest thing that gets me nervous is being, I always think, oh, I'm so confident in my living room doing the walk in front of my mom or something. But when you actually get there on stage and all the lights are on you and it's hard to see everybody, for me, I think if I saw people's faces, it would kind of calm me down because I'm able to see the reactions. But when it's hard to see people's faces, it is a little bit harder to feel confident and feel like you're doing something right. But yeah, I think always being on stage is going to be a challenge. But I have, of course, been working on that. And I think just my past experience being on stage does help because I can imagine that frightful feeling when I first walk out. And, I try to encourage myself through my training and my practice that that probably will happen again. So what ways, what tools can I build on to help with that initial stage fright and then become confident? And ultimately, I think the answer to that is just to keep training because once it becomes muscle memory, it's a lot harder to let emotions take over.
Kimberly, were you able to meet your Miss Earth sisters or your fellow competitors for the pageant? Were you able to reach out to them already, or?
Yeah,
with
so
stuff.
I Yes, I've been able to reach out to them virtually. So there was an event in Orlando that the organization put on a few months ago, but I don't, I live on the West Coast and I wasn't able to make it. But I am able to meet with my competitors and I do speak to them regularly over social media. That's why I love that they give us those official social media accounts because we're able to connect. Like I said, I'm doing a virtual event with my sister queen Emma, who is amazing. So and I've done, there was a little reel that we put together with Miss South Carolina Earth. So we've all been able to interact with each other during this whole time, and they've all been so amazing. I'm always really impressed with all the girls in pageants. I mean, they're very accomplished, they're very well spoken, they're intelligent. So I've been really lucky in that I've been able to speak to them even though we're very far apart. And then I've also been able to actually form a bond and a relationship and kind of a informal mentorship with our current Miss Earth Air and Miss Earth USA, Marissa Butler. So that's been amazing. She's been an awesome help so far, and I've been able to help out with her nonprofit We Clean Trails as well. So yes, I've been able to connect with most of my sister queens, and I love it. That's the most fun for me for competing.
And there's a question that is often asked when there's pageant. To you, Kim, who do you think is your greatest competitor, or who do you think you consider a threat to you? Is there someone?
No, I'm always my biggest competitor. I can honestly say that. I don't walk into any competition. I think at first, we all think, oh, I'm guilty of comparing myself to the other girls, of course, at first, because you're kind of sizing everything up and you're nervous. But as time goes on, it really is just a competition with myself. I want to improve what I have performed like in the past, and I want to continue improving during the competition. It's a week long that we're in Orlando, so I have a lot of opportunities to perform, practice, and assess what I'm doing. So I would say that I don't really view the other girls as my competition. It's really just about me, myself, and I.
Yes. That's a very great attitude of you, Kimberly. Kim, I think I'll read a few more questions, no, before we end this interview. There's another question here from Napoleon. I think this is also a very interesting question. Okay, let me flash that. Miss Earth, what has been the severest violation done against you that you already have forgiven because you have asked God to take over?
So I don't want to get into everything bad that's happened to me in my life, but
Yeah.
there's definitely been hard times throughout my life for sure. But I think that's been a really big asset for me, honestly, is I was able to learn from those things, let them go, and then ultimately apply that to helping other victims and people who have been victims of, a number of different things that I haven't been a victim of either. So it's really helped me with my empathy and being able to, harness those tough times and apply it to things in my life and pursuits in my life that help others.
Yeah. Another question is, may we know your message at this very moment to yourself at age 9 and 18? Or let's narrow it down to when what would be your message to Kimberly when she was age 9 years old?
When I was 9, I was a really confident, bubbly girl. So I don't think I needed any help in that department, but I would say that I would probably tell myself that, life isn't always going to be this easy, but you got this. I think it's really life. What makes life hard isn't, I don't think, are the difficult times necessarily. It's that lack of confidence that you have after those things happen to you. And I definitely have had that happen so many times in my life where I just feel so defeated after, something doesn't go my way or what have you. And so I would tell my 9-year-old self that, look, these things are going to happen. There's ebbs and flows, there's ups and downs in your life. But just know that you'll always come out on the other side and to always be confident because those these outside factors can't bring you down, only you can bring you down. So always stay confident because it'll get you through.
Yay. Thank you so much, Kim. And let us shout out those who are watching us. We have Jomel Sauza. Hello, Kimberly, watching from Melbourne, Australia.
Hello.
Another is Auntie Sufi, Bellissima.
Thank you.
Another comment is from RK Alcazar, Alaska, India, Philippines, most beautiful of Miss Universe.
Thank you.
Hi. Okay, so there's also from One and he said mabuhay. So I believe
Bye
he's from the
bye.
Philippines. Ayun. And yeah. Okay, so thank you guys for watching us this morning, this afternoon, tonight. Kim, there's another question that I have received, and I think this would be more about you being, if ever you will be crowned as Miss Earth, and of course, you are also at the same time a lawyer. You're going to make your own law about Mother Earth. What would it be and why?
I would ban offshore oil drilling, absolutely. So that's what my huge advocacy with my initiative, Oceana Project. Unfortunately, there is no federal ban on offshore oil drilling, despite all of the damage that it does to all of our natural resources, including marine life and us humans. So I would start with that for sure, that we need to actually have a widespread ban on offshore oil drilling. Like I said, there's only been local efforts, and those are amazing, but they're a little bit too small and they don't prevent it altogether. So I would focus on that. And then, of course, I'd move more towards the ban of fossil fuels, not necessarily a law against fossil fuels, but greater regulations and coming up with different ways to harness sustainability and sustainable energy throughout our country and the world.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, Kimberly. We are very excited on your journey to Miss Earth USA, and we're excited that, and we hope that you will win the crown. I'm sure you will,
Thank you
because
so much.
yeah. Maybe have your message, your probably your final message to the supporters that you but before that, maybe ask what are your upcoming endeavors? Would you like to invite them to your social media accounts?
Sure. So if you aren't already following, you can follow me on Instagram at Kim Keen Official. And then you can follow my official Miss Alaska Instagram. I believe it's Miss Alaska Earth. There's another one that's Miss Alaska Earth USA, but the official account is Miss Alaska Earth. I also am on Facebook, Kimberly Keen, my full name, or you can follow the Miss Alaska Earth USA Facebook as well. They should come up relatively quickly. So if you want to follow along and support me, you're always welcome. I love engaging with all the supporters.
All right. Kudos, Pageant and JM, for asking my questions, and most especially, sorry, there's a comment right here. Kudos, Pageant Trend and MJM, for asking my questions. And sorry.
That's okay.
Most especially to Miss Alaska Earth Attorney Kim for answering them and allowing me to learn from you. And I'm sure we with all your answers, we are truly inspired, and yeah, those were awesome, really. And
Thank
also
you.
from Ralph, keep the awesome job, my friend, right
Thank you,
there.
Ralph.
So Kim, your final message to your fans, supporters, for the viewers, take it away.
My my final message to all of you is to keep being yourself, keep pursuing your dreams. I know that's cliche and that's been said over and over again, but I've had struggles with my self-confidence in my past and I always doubted myself growing up and I've learned that you don't have to doubt yourself. You don't have to listen to those negative thoughts. Just keep listening to those positive thoughts. They're in there. I know they are. Just keep believing in yourself. I know you can accomplish what you want to accomplish. And I hope that being Miss Alaska Earth and later, hopefully, Miss Earth USA, is that I inspire you that if I can do it, you can do it as well.
All right, thank you so much, Kim. And then on behalf of Pageant Trend, thank you for sharing your time. I know you are very busy with all your endeavors, with all your engagements. And we hope that you will really had a great time, great experience with your Miss Earth journey. And like I said earlier, we hope that you will really win the crown because, well, with
Thank
how you
you.
answer all those questions, I believe you will really be a great representation of
Oh,
USA, and of course, when you win the crown, I'm sure you will do great things with
oh,
it. So thank you so much, Kim, for sharing with us.
I really appreciate it. I really enjoyed being on here. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Kimberly, and of course, thank you to all our viewers. And once again, ladies and gentlemen, Miss Earth Alaska 2021 Kimberly King. Virtual applause for her on the comment section. So once again, thank you for joining us this morning, this afternoon, this evening. And again, please do follow, like, subscribe Pageant Trend on Facebook and on YouTube. So once again, I am John Michael Suelo, your host and correspondent for Pageant Trend, and we hope to see you all in our next lives again. So once again, ladies and gentlemen, Miss Earth Alaska 2021 Kimberly T. Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone. Good evening, Kim.
Thank you so much. Bye bye.